So welcome everybody. This is Find the Link session 3. Thank you for coming. I'm just going to start a very brief PowerPoint while our speakers get ready. We have 3 amazing speakers today. More people are going to join us soon. Just trying to enable my screen. Okay. So the last sessions have been really amazing. The first meeting was about preparing for parenthood, and the second one was also about parenting. And we're having the third session today, which is about parenting styles. And it promises to be a great and amazing time. Excuse that noise, sorry. So session 3, the aims of Find the Link sessions are to enlighten, empower, inspire, and to give back. We've had Find the Link relationships last year. Some of the sessions are on Zoom right now, on YouTube right now, excuse me. So parenting styles, what are they? Which of them do you do? Do you do one of them? Do you do a combination of different styles? I think that's what our speakers today are going to talk about in greater detail. Our speakers today are Kunle and Rebecca Ishola. Rebecca is a pediatric nurse, and Kunle, who also happens to be my brother, is a minister and has a small business, and they have 2 amazing daughters. And we have Chinedu Akiti, who is a dear friend and sister, who is a writer, HR professional, committed to building people and societies and nations. Great lady. I'm sure we'll be meeting her very soon. Next sessions on Find the Link parenting are intentional parenting, dealing with teenagers, missed parenthood, dealing with loss, parenting and physical health, parenting and mental health, and many more sessions after that will take us through to the 31st of July. The full sessions end at the end of August, but they're going to be in-house and not public. So feel free to join us. There's an active online group on WhatsApp, and that's what I meant by in-house. We have prayers on there. We have some discussion on there as well. The aim there is learning and sharing. If you're interested, please fill a form that will be posted at some point. We love feedback. Please fill the feedback form as well. Feel free to check replays on YouTube, temitopepraisingchild. Follow Twitter, Instagram, or Facebook as well. Be happy to connect. And our motto for Find the Link sessions on parenting are I and the children God has given me. We are for signs and wonders. Okay. So we would go to our speakers. I think we will be starting with Pastor Kunle and Sister Rebecca Ishola. We'll be starting with them first. Please switch on. Pastor Kunle and Rebecca are going to be giving us their personal insights about their parenting styles and any other insights they want to share. And Chinedu will also be giving us her insights. Chinedu happens to be in Nigeria and Pastor Kunle happens to be in the UK. So I'm sure they'll probably be sharing different perspectives. And I'm going to spotlight you in a moment. Okay. Hello. Lovely to see you both.
Good afternoon, everyone.
Hello. Good afternoon. I've been receiving packages. It's lovely to see you. Even though I haven't gotten to visit you yet, but I will. Yes. So let's hear from you. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you very much for this opportunity. It's always an opportunity to share experiences with whichever group in whatever forum. So we are very grateful for this opportunity. We're going to be talking about parenting styles as it relates to discipline, freedom, boundaries, and flexibility. We've got a small PowerPoint presentation as well. Bear with me 1 second while I share the screen. Which one is it now?
Sure.
This one. Yeah. Okay. Okay. All right. Now I need to move this forward.
This one.
Okay. Hold on. So moving forward. Yeah. Okay. There we go. Okay. So I've extended my thanks for the opportunity, and I'll now pass it over to Rebecca. Like we said, we are going to talk about discipline, freedom, boundaries, and flexibility.
Okay, so as Kunle has said, this is Kunle and I'm Rebecca. We've been married for 20 years, still a young couple. We're still growing in our knowledge, still got lots to learn. And obviously we're coming from completely different backgrounds, but I think that's really enriched our parenting. It's been an interesting journey, but it's been richer for it. I think we've learned a lot, and we've got a lot to learn. We've got 2 daughters. One's going to college, and one will be going to high school next year. So as the PowerPoint says, we're just going to touch on just a very, very few. It's such a massive, massive subject. So we're just going to touch on some of the things that we found to be essentials, and what works for us from some of our personal experiences. Okay. So we've done a little acronym for discipline. The acronym is IGNITE, and we really want in our children to ignite a sense of pride and responsibility. And I think in relation to discipline, it was a good word for us just to ignite that in them. So the I is for to be involved, and we thought that was really, really important with discipline, that we're not just standing back from a distance disciplining our children, but we have to be close to them, we have to be involved with them. And although it's a very discipline, we can be very firm, which is good, but we wanted to bring out the gentle side as well, that discipline, we're firm but we're gentle, and along with that gentleness comes the nurturing side, that we want to nurture our children. And then moving on from the N is the instructive and teaching. We want to guide them as part of their discipline in the way that they should go. And as part of that, it takes us to the E, which is the example. So the little picture of the little girl drawing on the wall, obviously, we use that as an example just to say that, obviously, if our children were doing that, how we would approach it. And
I've done it.
Yeah, I think all children draw on the walls, don't they, at some point? But, and we do need to be firm, and we do lose our temper and scream at them. But, you know, we just need those clear boundaries, which Kunle will talk about later, so that they can know. We think discipline is important, that the children need to know they're loved, and God does that for us, doesn't he? And at the bottom, we did put that scripture up, which I can just read now. As you endure this divine discipline, remember that God is treating you as his own children. Who's ever heard of a child who is never disciplined by his father? Just so lovely. Just that God loves us so much that he disciplines us. And that's what we're doing with our children, isn't it? And there was just a quote there. The alternative to discipline is disaster. and that's from Vance Havner. And I think we've all seen children that don't have discipline, and we see the implications for that really. When we see children that are not disciplined, it doesn't turn out well. That discipline is something positive. It might not feel like that for the children or for us at the time, but it's something very positive. So the next on our list was freedom. So our acronym for freedom was LET. We need to let our children develop. We want to let them be free to a certain extent. But obviously the first L is limits. So with freedom comes limits. So we want our children to grow and to develop, but we want them to know there's limits within freedom. Freedom can never be given fully to children. And then we've put E for expectations managed. So we need to give them freedom, but let them know that this is what we expect of you. These are the rules that come with that. And also T for timing. So LET, timing, that with freedom, it depends on the age that your children's on, that there's a time for everything. We're not going to be letting our 3-year-old go to bed at midnight, and there's a timing for everything, isn't there? And again, the scripture at the bottom says, for everything there is a season, a time for everything under heaven. There's timings for everything, and we just pray that God gives us wisdom for that for our children, because it's not an easy thing just to say, oh, you know, there's a time for everything. Sometimes we do wonder, when do we allow this? When do we do that? But we just have to trust God for him to lead us by his spirit and help us to give us wisdom for those timings. So we just use the example of sending our children to bed when we were thinking about this, that we gave them limits, your bedtime 7:30, for example. We manage their expectations. When they ask for a bedtime at 8 o'clock, we tell them, well, maybe in a year's time, when you're a bit older, you can go to bed at 8 o'clock. And that's all part of the timings, that when your time comes, you can go to bed at 8 o'clock. So you will be given the freedom, but there's going to be stages to it. Oh, the quote, sorry, there was a quote there from Anna Quindler. Children should have enough freedom to be themselves. And then I like this, there should be a little but there, once they've learned the rules. So we do give children freedom, but there's never ever freedom without rules.
Right. So I'll talk about boundaries and flexibility. All right, yes, next one. We're given 10 minutes to discuss each of these things, and it's not up to 10 minutes yet, and we're on the third one already. So I don't know if that is any relation to our parenting skills, but we're more personal and practical with our experiences. And that's why we've included things that will sort of bring a bit of humor, but also acronym to make it poignant and straight to the point. You can tell the kind of parents that we are. Don't beat around the bush, you just get straight to the point. Don't like all the trimmings sometimes. But anyway, so boundaries, I've used the acronym ROPE. ROPE is not just to limit things or to tie things down. Ropes can also be used for skipping. So in terms of boundaries, what we try to do with our children, and I believe we've been successful up till now, is to confer respect on them by giving them boundaries, to respect themselves, to respect other people, to respect society, to respect older people. And because for me, like I've always told the children, in the British culture, courtesy is important. In the African culture, respect is important. So if you see somebody on the road or on the street saying to them, please, can I go past? They will consider you rude, generally speaking. That is generally speaking in the African culture. In the British culture, or the Western culture, you're considered polite. Whereas in the African culture, you're considered rude. What they expect you to do, if you see an older person, is to say hello, is to acknowledge them first, not for them to acknowledge you. So that's what respect means for them. Whereas in the Western culture, if you acknowledge them first and you say hello, they're wondering why you're saying hello to them, a stranger that you know, just because you're passing by each other. So we put boundaries, which is reflected in the culture. So whenever we visit Nigeria, I tell my children, pocket the please and the excuse me, come out with respect. Just your prefix should be sirs and mas and aunties and things. You'll go far, even if you don't understand the language. So teaching them out to their boundaries in terms of relating to another person. Boundaries also help with ownership. So with what belongs to them, this belongs to you, your body, the things that we bought for you, but also you've got to respect other people's property, other people's things. So this is where your freedom starts, but this also is where it ends, because that's where somebody else's freedom or boundary starts. And we practice that with them, and we encourage them to be individuals, and we emphasize the fact that they are individuals, but as part of a family, as part of a whole. So they're not just individuals by themselves, let loose to do whatever they please, but they're individuals within a family. So they're part of a whole, and they're not just part of a whole, they're wholly part. So they're integral to the family, but they're individuals themselves. You understand what I mean? This gives accountability, and this, of course, increases with age or as more responsibilities come their way. Example that we've given them is with their clothes. We've chosen their clothes for them. Yes, they've had choices of colors when they were younger, but with the with time, when they've now been choosing theirs, they know what we stand for. So we've not robbed them of their individuality, we've not caged them, but we've given them the boundaries. So I tell my daughters, we have daughters, I tell them, yes, it's your body, you can wear whatever you want, but at the same time, you don't want to become a stumbling block for somebody else outside, and you don't want to portray a wrong image of yourself as well. So the quote I've got for that is by Brene Brown. I think she's a clinical social worker in America. She's an author as well. She says, when we fail to set boundaries and hold people accountable, we feel used and mistreated. And the scriptural quote that I've got is in Deuteronomy 11:24. Every place you set your foot is yours, from the desert to the river, as far as the Mediterranean Sea. Even though God was giving the children of Israel so much land, but there was a boundary. There was a place where they couldn't step. So take only what God gives to you. And finally, flexibility. And again, culturally, this is important for us as mixed race couple. And we're open to new ways of doing the same thing, open to new ways of achieving the same thing. So for instance, I am prone to raising my voice, and I'm constantly calmed by Madame here, that you don't need to say the same thing with loud volume. You can do it, you can still achieve the same thing by saying it in low volume. So yeah, so we're open is the acronym we've used, because we make them understand that their opinion matters. And so we value their opinion, but the fact that they've got an opinion doesn't mean we have to take the opinion on board. We will listen, but we will then, what the modern term, they call it positive parenting, probably is a term that has been used in the past. I'm not sure, but I think it's more modern now, where we affirm them, we encourage them, we engage, we come to their level and say, okay, yes, that's a valid opinion. Yes, all your friends go to bed at 10:30 p.m., which is good. It's good, but you're not your friend, and I'm not your friend's father. So, but by this time, of course, you can hear my volume increasing. That I don't know how that factors into this family. And Madame is saying, you know, calm down, calm down. It's okay. She's just voicing an alternative and bring to table why it can't be that way. So, so the opinion matters, positive parenting, engage, but there are non-negotiables. There are things that are fixed in our home. You can't move them. They are non-negotiables. So for instance, I enjoy having a meal together, but we can't have a meal together at all times. So Rebecca has made sure that at least we have one meal a day. If I'm in town, we aim to have one meal a day together. Now, for me, it doesn't matter where you have the meal. For me, I can eat in the office with the children. I can eat in the living room, but Madame has made sure the fixed place to eat is a room called the dining room. That's what it's for. So that's what it should be used for, not be eating upstairs and downstairs. So you can see that in as much as mealtime is non-negotiable, there's flexibility. Sometimes on Saturday night, we do have a meal in the living room, watch a film together as a family. Yeah, so the quote is from Jeff Bezos, the Amazon CEO. We're stubborn on vision, that's what he says, but we're flexible on details. And the Bible says, thank God, once you were slaves to sin, but now you wholeheartedly obey his teaching. This teaching we've given to you. Now you're free from your slavery to sin and you've become slaves to righteous living. So I like that quote as well. We're stubborn on vision, but we're flexible on the details. So that's our parenting style as it relates to discipline, flexibility, boundaries, and what's the third one? Sorry. Freedom. Thank you. And we've managed to wrap it up in less than, don't know, probably that's a record time of any speaker that Praisingchild or Praisingchild, like I call her, has had on this forum. But I think we the best if you ask us questions, or if you think, you know, some of the challenges we faced, especially in the society we live in, as it relates to identity and many other things that go on in high school. High school is one of the, from my personal experience, it's one of the challenging places that you could ever bring your child into, but there's no choice. When I was growing up, high school was pretty challenging, but compared to what these children face in high school now, it is a jungle. It is a jungle, and you need to be involved every day, because or else they will train up your child in the way they want them to become, and you won't like what you get at the end of it. So anyway, that's the end. Thank you for listening.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. That has been an amazing and very concise presentation. Love the quotes, love the scriptures. Obvious that you're ministers, and that's good. Very refreshing to see the dynamic. My brother, when I said would he mind? Wife must be speaking beside him. So he's the one speaker that definitely said that. And it's lovely to see the dynamic and how they complement each other. That's brilliant. You shared so many important things. I think people might have questions, or if you have questions, feel free to type it in the chat box. Feel free to raise your hand electronically. That will be amazing. I don't know whether you want to take questions now or after the next session. I don't see any questions.
Because, as I've told you, I'm really sorry. I've got another seminar to attend and to speak in shortly. So if possible, if people have questions. If you don't have questions, it's wonderful.
Yeah. Thank
you for the compliment. Love the way the couple complement each other and are open to options. Thank you. I just read that.
Someone has said, but in the diaspora, how to manage that? I don't know that that's a comment or a question, but maybe we should take it as a question.
Yeah.
What's your experience?
For me, life is easy because even though Rebecca and I come from a different culture, upbringing, because we meet and we're united as Christians, life is easy. One person asked me, I'm really sorry, this might sound as if I'm a chauvinist, but I am not. Somebody asked me, what is it, one of my good friends asked me a few years back, what is it like to be married to a British white girl? I said, the same as being married to a Black Nigerian person. The only thing is that your arguments are in English, not in Yoruba. I said, it's exactly the same stress, exactly the same encouragement. Okay. I said, the only thing is that everything is in English. So discipline in the diaspora, you've got to be very careful because of the land. There's some countries in the UK, in the United Kingdom, I believe they've banned smacking. We use that for our children, of course, within measure. We never did it when we were angry. It was always in concert. So I tend to be accountable to my wife when I want to do it, and she's also accountable to me so that we can have checks and balances. But the method we employed was probably a smack at the back of the hand and things like that, just for them to feel that discipline. That's what we use. However, having said that, we only use that, which you might think is a bit daunting. We only use that in the early stages of their lives. We didn't use it towards.
There was other methods.
When
they were older and they understand more, things would be easier when you just said, I'll take that away from you, or there was other ways to punish them that was just, they were just as effective, even more painful maybe to take something away from them.
Yes, so yeah, but for me, I thought I would be the one who will exercise, but I think I'm more patient in that. I wasn't as quick to do that because my volume of voice usually took care of things. Let me just put it that way. By the time, yes, it usually took care of things. So that's where
there's a question there about cultural, how you manage, which is quite interesting, because when we first decided to have children, we said, we're not bringing up our children the British way. We're not bringing our children up the Nigerian way. We're just bringing our children up God's way. And that's just been our focus. What does the Bible say? What does God say? And we've just then, it's not been difficult at all because there's such beautiful things about both cultures that the children love, and it's not been difficult. They love the Nigerian clothes, they love Nigerian food. In fact, they prefer Nigerian food, I think, than British food. They're refusing my potatoes and eating pounded yam. But it's just lovely. It's beautiful to have both. It's not been difficult at all. It's enriching, isn't it?
Yes, it is enriching. And the adaptiveness, the cultural adaptiveness that the question on the chat, it only applies to them when they're relating to Nigerians, for instance. Whenever we go to Nigeria, I tell them on approach, before we go, this is what you will encounter, this is how you're to respond, and if any problem, just refer back to me. And when we go to Nigeria as well, I explain to my wife as well, this is the cultural expectation in particular places. So for instance, when we've been to Lagos, it's been a bit freer. When we've been to Ibadan, probably when you go to the market, when you went to Bodija market, I think they sent you back to the car because it was more, she was attracting a crowd nearly everywhere she went, especially when she was pricing yam and all the rest of the things. So they just sent her back to the car. In Abuja, yes, in Abuja, it's easier, I think, as well. So we're conscious of if we're in a state that is, or when we visit friends that are Muslims, and they are, because we got some friends in Abuja who, the chap who was in the army, and his wife covers herself from head to toe, generally speaking, and the daughter. So when we go there, there are some things we don't do. So I don't extend my hand to shake the wife, for instance, and Rebecca doesn't extend a hand to touch her husband as well, to shake her husband. So we just adapt. And I just say to them, also, there's some churches we go to that head covering is allowed. There's some churches that head covering is not allowed. And my daughters will always ask me, Dad, is this not hypocrisy? They'll always challenge me about things like that. Is this not hypocrisy? Why are you saying we shouldn't wear trousers when we go into this church? I said, well, that's the belief of that church. So if we go there, we respect their beliefs and we stay within that. They're not telling us what to do in our house, but when you go to someone else's house, it's like, I give them the example. When you go to some people's house in England, they will tell you, you take off your shoes when you enter their house because they don't want shoes on their carpet. You do that easily. You don't even think about it twice. So what's the big deal? If you're going to somebody's house and they say, or someone's church and they say, we don't allow this in this church, you just do it. It's not a big deal. And they get rewarded for it. When we went to Nigeria the last time, it was myself and the two girls who went, Beck was working. When we entered Lagos airport, I think it was Lagos, yes. I told them, I said, look, you just got to be respectful. That's all. Remember what I taught you? They said, yes. I said, if in doubt, just use sir and ma, and that's fine. So the immigration officer called us and said, oh, are these your children? I said, yes. He said, okay, come to the front of the queue. And we're allowing women and children, so there's no reason why we shouldn't allow fathers and children to come to the front so that they're not sweating. So we got to the front of the queue, and as the man was about to turn back, my daughter said to him, oh, thank you, sir. And the man turned back again and said, oh, what lovely children. What's your name? He said, oh, my name is Missy. Missy, oh, so Yoruba name. These are my daughters. And then started telling everyone on the counter, these are my children. Oh, they've just arrived from. I said, see, that's what it gets you when you respect. It doesn't cost you anything, but yet you're being rewarded instantly. So these are the advantages of adaptability. It doesn't cost us much to say sir, or, I mean, they see me do it as well. It doesn't cost much. So, yeah.
Awesome. I think that's a great answer. And I think it's easier for children to have boundaries and have discipline, especially when they can see the kind of lives their parents model. I think it makes life easier. They don't end up fusion in the outside world, and respect is not commonplace. Courtesy is not commonplace. Even in the United Kingdom, even sometimes patients will come, they will not have courtesy. They will insult you in email. They can even say it personally as though they are doing you a favor. And it can be very, very infuriating sometimes, and you have to exercise patience. But what you've said is very, very refreshing, and I'm sure it's been helpful to a lot of people. You've mentioned about the issues growing up in high school, which you just touched on very, very briefly. How would you say when your daughter was in secondary school, for instance, high school?
I think we like to get in there before the school gets in there. So we know that when sex education is coming, or when any of those educations are coming, we get to our children first. So my youngest is in primary school, so we've already had a talk about some things about what the Bible says, what God says, so that when the school come and they talk their talk, we've already put that down first, grounded. We need to be very, very strong on that, because our eldest daughter in high school, there's been some very, very horrendous things, the way that society is going now, that people are no longer he or she, that people will be called they. It just broke our hearts that in this day and age, we will be encouraging young children to be calling themselves they or it. It's really horrible out there. But as I said, we're getting in there as early as we can with our children. These beliefs that God has made you a girl, you're a beautiful young woman. This is what the Bible says about you. This is what God's plan is for us. We have to tell our children as soon as possible, because the school will be hard and they'll be teaching them, and all of their friends will be believing the same thing that the school is teaching them. So we're just getting in there as early as we can and grounding them.
Yeah, and the other side of it that we balance is, because we live in a real world, and there's no how we can shield them from what is out there, but we can stop it from taking root in here. So we also tell them that in as much as this is what we believe according to the Bible, other people might, in fact, most people, it seems, in the Western society don't believe this. We are not saying you should go to them and say what they believe is wrong, but according to the truth, the light that we have, this is the truth, and this is the direction we are going. If you don't do that, the problem we've got with the Western society is, I believe that the Western society wants to teach you how to bring up your children, and then when trouble starts, they'll blame you for not bringing them up rightly. So it's a catch-22. So the parents, we need to fulfill our responsibilities. Our stewardship is very important. I say to the girls that I'm only their parent here, as we believe when we get to be in God's presence, that there are no fathers, no mothers. So we'll all be one. And my daughter is really looking forward to that she can call me by name. That when we get to heaven, you mean I don't have to call you daddy, I can call you by name. So, well, yeah, you can. but bringing what we believe in a humorous way, but being not compromising our faith. We've had times that we've had to go to the school to discuss incidents based on race, based on belief. When the girls were being racially abused in school, that's reality of life. If you don't affirm them and tell them the truth from home, it will devastate them. It was still devastating, but at least they were assured of our love. Whether or not the school dealt with it properly was irrelevant to us at first, but the school did deal with it very well. I've got friends who the school didn't deal with their own issues as good as they did ours. And we've also had incidents of books that to be read that we felt were not appropriate. And so, like Rebecca said, you have to get in there and be conversant with the curriculum, conversant with the books. You can ask the school will provide you everything that you need, envisaging what they will learn in year 3, year 5, and so on and so forth. So you just get in there. It would be my advice.
Helpful, I believe, to a lot of people, and has shed a lot of light and insights. And what you are describing is very much what our next topic on the series is going to be, which is intentional parenting, which is what you mean by getting there ahead of time, being involved. I think it's so important in the age we live in for parents to be involved with their children. And thank you so much. I think the part about parents being in unity cannot be overemphasized. I think it's so important that you both see this while you're describing it as being easy. And I know that God has also been helping you as well. Thank you so much. That's been amazing. God bless you. And it's so lovely to see you. If my brother needs to step out, yeah, okay. But I'll hand over to Chinedu now, who's going to be taking the next session. Thank you. My sister Chinedu, where are you? How are you, my sister? You're welcome. Sorry I've kept you waiting. Hope you don't mind. We've had to modify things a little bit. And I will still ask my sister Bex to give us her final words when you're done and with your session and with the question time. So over to you now.
Okay, good evening, everyone. I was speaking with the microphone muted, so I didn't realize you weren't hearing. Okay, so I'm sharing my slides. I'm not going to go through every one of them because, as you said, our time is of essence. Yeah, so can you see it? Can you see the slide?
Not yet.
Okay.
Not yet.
You know what? I'll just send it to you. Please project it, because I don't know why. It's just
have you tried to share the screen?
Yeah, I've clicked try.
Okay.
What's it called? Yeah, I have.
Share screen.
Yes, I have. So is it sharing now?
Okay. Yes, it's sharing now. Yes, it's sharing now.
No, but it seems to just, you know what, I'm just going to send it to you. It seems to just be showing my face. I can't see the, don't worry, I'll just send it to you.
Yes,
please,
it's showing your face, actually.
Yeah.
Sure.
I don't know why that is. Yeah, so I'll just share that with you. Before I start, there are a few scriptures that, for me, I believe a parent, or ideally should be a parent's go-to. One of them for me is Genesis chapter 18. I know that perhaps it's not everybody who is a believer here, but I always say that I don't just use the Bible as a religious text. For me, the Bible is a textbook on life. And when people say, no, we want, what's it called? We want a society that's religion free. I say, that's fine. We all believe in something. Even, when you say you don't want religion, you're typically wanting to tout your own perspective. So I'm more comfortable with hearing God's perspective on the issue, seeing as God is typically more likely not to lie. Okay, so Temi, I've shared it with you. If you could just project it, please. I'll find out what's going on. Okay,
How
so
have you shared it with me?
Oh, I'm sorry, I sent it to you on WhatsApp. Is that fine? Is that okay?
Not quite, because then I'll have to use my phone. No. Please send it to my email because I'm using my laptop. Otherwise, I will have to start transferring from respond to my email. Don't mind, please.
No, it's not a question of minding. It's a question of, don't worry, I'll sort it. Yeah.
Sorry to interrupt. I was just wondering, can
Okay.
you just send it to me on WhatsApp, then I'll just project it. Is that
Is
all
that for
right?
me?
No, this is Moji.
Is that
Okay, that's fine.
okay?
No, that's
I'll send you
Moji.
a message on WhatsApp now, Chinedu.
Okay, please.
No,
Thank you.
do that now, yeah.
Okay, so
Awesome.
yes, so I'll just be talking through it for now. So when I get your message, I will. Yeah. Okay, so like I said, Genesis 18 and verse 17 to 19. And I'm looking at.
Sorry, I've muted you. Sorry, Chinedu, you're muted. I was trying to mute everybody. So I'm going to mute everybody. Please unmute yourself again. Thank you. Please unmute yourself again, Chinedu.
Okay, so thank you, Moji. I've sent it to you. So like I said, that favorite scripture, I think every parent should just, utilize. And the reason why I'm starting with it is if you don't know, the why of a thing, like they say, abuse is inevitable. And so I'm just going to read from two versions, first the Amplified and then the NLT. And it says that the Lord said, shall I hide from Abraham, my friend and servant, what I'm going to do? Since Abraham shall surely become a great and mighty nation, and all the nations of the earth shall be blessed through him, and shall bless themselves by him. For I have known, chosen, acknowledged him as my own, so that he may teach and command his children and the sons of his house after him to keep the way of the Lord, and to do that which is just and righteous, so that the Lord may bring Abraham what he had promised him. And then in the NLT, should I hide my plan from Abraham? The Lord asked, for Abraham will certainly become a great and mighty nation, and all the nations of the earth will be blessed through him. I have singled him out so that he will direct his sons and their families to keep the way of the Lord, and by doing what is just, right and just, then I will do for Abraham all that I have promised. So essentially, a lot of us are always shouting about the blessings of Abraham. This is why God blessed Abraham. He said, this Abraham, this guy, he won't advise his children to keep my way. He will command them to. And so, there are many types of, parenting styles as varied as the humans are. And Temitope had asked me to, emphasize on my experience with my father. With my parents. I've written a book called Raising Daughters in a Changing World, and it essentially touches about the relationship of my father and myself. So I'm going to slide, so let's go to slide 5, would you please? So essentially, I like to think about what style do we think the parents of the Bible had? So if you ask yourself, what kind of parents were Adam and Eve? What about Abraham and Sarah, Isaac and Rebecca? What kind of parents was David, Solomon, Caleb, Moses, Eli, Ruth? And then of course, what kind of parent am I? And the reason we need to ask these questions is, I don't know if you've paid attention to the fact that quite a lot of great men didn't raise great children, and that should make us question what's going on here. How come these great men can do such mighty works and we never hear about their children again? I think that it's largely because the focus is typically external, rarely internal. And that's just my opinion. Other people have told me that, well, greatness doesn't always fall. But I think that if you look at the parents who were successful in the Bible, they appear to have had some kind. So, we're studying we studied Caleb last week in church, and it was interesting to me that he was deliberate about who his daughter married. And his daughter could come to him and say, okay, she could tell her husband, give me extra, tell my father to give you extra land. And then she could go back to her father and say, plus the land, we want water, you know. So he obviously raised a bold child who was very involved and who had influence with her husband. For me, it tells me some kind of work was going on there. So with regards to discipline, I put this, because it's either you suffer the pain of discipline or you suffer the pain of regret. So I like to say that one space where my parents excelled, and I mean, you need to have met them to understand what I'm saying. They're as different as, please, the next slide, as different as night as day, still they were able to raise us up respecting each other. So for example, my father, I like to say that he was a bit of a coward with physically hitting you. My father could do anything to get away from having to hit you. So he will shout at you, but actually he would most likely say to you, sit down there. So what do you think you did? Why did you do this? What do you think this thing you did deserved? Now, that was definitely not my mom's style. My mom would just whack her. My mom used to kill you with cane, you know. Now, I mean, recently I was having a conversation with my mom, that man, but you were wicked, oh. And she said, if I didn't beat you, how would you have come out? Your father spoiled you silly. Now, I don't agree that it was spoiling. I think that everybody's style, so because that was how my father, I mean, because he would reason with you, I found out that I was more afraid of having to deal with him than my mother. My mother's own, she is beating. You plan the beating, you learn 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, that's the end. But with him, he would make you go and reason. Sometimes he would say to you, okay, go and write down what you've learned from this experience. Why did you do this? What did it teach you? And I think that helped me actually improve my analysis, because, you know, with my mother, as long as you have cried, the matter has solved. But my father, your crying is not sufficient. You say, okay, you're crying here. What did you learn? You know, and I found that very helpful. And I find I use it myself. I'm not very emotional. After you finish crying, okay, so why did you do this? Yeah. And then after, Aristotle made this quote in the next slide. It says, through discipline comes freedom. Where there's no discipline, really all you have is anarchy. And I see this a lot in a lot of modern day homes, especially homes that are raised by women. And I say this without I'm not meaning to be insultive of any gender, but I find that whereas some mothers, at least my mother, didn't have a problem with her child not liking her for the present, you know, and doing things that they believed were better for you long term. I find that for too many modern parents, they're too focused on their children liking them. Now, if you see the way I detested my mother growing up, you wouldn't believe the kind of friendship that we have today. And I think that what has happened over time is because you can look back and say, this discipline was good, it was for my good. So you're not offended. So in terms of freedoms, one of the things that, you know, and some people have different ideas about this. Once you got to, so if you were a child, say before you were, say about 13, I'm trying to fix an age to it. You had no choice in what you ate. What you had to eat was put in front of you, you ate. If you didn't eat it, they will beat you on top. But as you began to grow, my mom had this system where, so she's a caterer, so she'll actually make options and you would choose what you wanted to eat. Now that I'm an adult, that was quite a lot of work. But in choosing what you wanted to eat, for me, I mean, it might seem basic, but I mean, I used to go to a lot of homes where there just simply wasn't any option. Now I've heard the two sides of it. Some people say it's economical to just cook one thing, but I like the fact that because food was put on the dining table in coolers and you could come and eat what you wanted at what time. It's not like there was a buffet, but like at least there will be two options. You weren't forced to eat a particular thing. But beyond eating also, in terms of freedom, one of the things that my father gave me was the gift of a mind of your own. If my father said something to you, asked you about something, and you said it was okay, and you didn't have anything to add to it, you'll be like, what's your brain there for? So I believe that freedom to come to add to the conversation. So we didn't just watch TV or news in my house. So I mean, it was was a major quarrel with some persons. I mean, because as you're watching it, it's like, what's your opinion? What do you think about this thing? You know, and so we grew up in my house. We can be arguing about things as if we think we are fighting, but it's just a mental exercise. We may not be committed to any position, but it's just, you know, just checking. And I find that because we were raised like that, it's a two-edged sword. Some people see it as rudeness, but essentially it just helps you to develop a mind of your own. Boundaries. In the next slide, we're talking about creating healthy boundaries. How do you do this? I find that, please move to the next slide. I find that there are different models for boundaries depending on what kind of relationship you have. And whether you like it or not, I mean, parents also can have toxic and healthy relationships with their children. So you'd see that at the core of a healthy relationship is respect, and at the core of an abusive relationship is control and power. I think that everybody deserves respect, everybody, even your children. Like I say, my father used to, and this is not, I mean, even as a 5-year-old child, my mom didn't have that much respect for you, but my father did. He would interrogate you. He didn't just assume that, oh, because I'm your father, you must do X, Y, Z. Now, of course, as we age, there are different degrees of respect, you know, different degrees of boundaries, and you expand it or you constrain it based on the person's reaction, you know. And like I like to explain to people, if you make all the choices for your children, they will not be able to make choices on their own. So you need to, you know, give them. So I remember my father giving us a sexual education conversation. What had prompted that meeting was he used to be in the Air Force, and he had gone to do some recruitment. And that was when HIV was well, I mean, it's still high, but he was really amazed at the people who looked normal, and then they would just do a test and they would be HIV. So he came home and he was he was just like stunned. Oh, what's up? We have to have a meeting today. So he says, so, you know, I'm an only girl. So he's apologizing to me all the time. I'm sorry you have to be here, but I met some girls too who had this thing. So we all have to have this conversation. Okay. And, you know, so even though we're laughing, because I mean, of course, I'd already heard all the stories about sex before then. So I always say to parents, please have this conversation earlier. But my father didn't say, don't have a boyfriend. In fact, my father would ask you, do you have a boyfriend? And he'll be happy that you don't. But he didn't. My mother, on the other hand, you could not even bring that conversation near her. She would just kill you. But my father used to have conversations as to what you should not do, why. No, so it's not, don't have a boyfriend. But if you have a boyfriend, please know you should not do this one. Don't go there. Don't do this. Don't that. You know, and if you asked him why, he generally would tell you why. And then so finally, we're on the second to the last slide, and we're talking about flexibility. I believe that one of the greatest joys that a parent has, or one of the greatest capacities that a parent can pass on to their child, is the ability to be flexible. Life, regardless of how well planned, how well organized we are, is never going to work out 100% the way we dreamed and hoped it would. So you need to be able to demonstrate to your children that, look, this is important to me. This is why it's important to me. And you know, a simple example that I would use and just end the session is I've always had, like I say, I'm an only girl, so I've always had a room to myself, especially as I was after my teenage years. But my house has always been a house where people come and go, because my father is quite the socialite, and his house, everybody just stops in Lagos at his house. And I didn't exactly like sharing my room, you know, but if it was a girl, there's no other room to put the person, you know. And my father could see that I didn't like to share, you know, and he used it as a teaching moment. Look, these people are not going to always be here. This is your room. Just be flexible. Sharing is good for you, you know. And so I say, I mean, there will always be many spaces upon which flexibility is required. Teach them the core, why you do the things, why you're not doing what it is you're not doing, and then have them make choices. Sometimes they will fail, sometimes they will, you know, they'll get it right. But the beautiful thing is, once you teach people to be flexible, they're more able to, there's a saying that it's not the strongest of the race that survives, it's the most adaptable. So the more adaptable people are, the more likely they are to thrive in society. So I end with this slide. I forgot I wasn't the one, about positive parenting. Whatever style it is you use, you know, I don't like for people to act as though they are fixed. You need to have a growing mindset and be constantly, you know, interrogating whatever it is you do. Is it working? Not just for you, is it working for the child? Because every child requires a different model. It may not be 100% different from child A, but there needs to be a tweak here. There are children who come out self-confident, and there are those who are just, you know, so you can't raise them. You can't be shouting at the one who is introverted and wanting that. Can't you be like your brother? No, no, no. You will just kill that one completely. So I mean, thank you for the opportunity to share with this great crowd. I look forward to any questions that you may have. Thank you. I hope I managed my time well.
Thank you. You've done really well. That's been amazing. It's been an amazing time to hear all of that, and about your father, and and through discipline comes freedom by Aristotle as well. That's really, really great. So something struck me when you spoke, and that was a line about guide children without taking away their individuality. So children, each child is an individual, and even the one you've just described as being self-confident, shaking, and that self-confidence is almost gone, and then they need to have some groundedness, somewhere that they can have as an anchor, whether it's their family or it's their faith. And yes, I really love the part about positive parenting. I think I'd had a bit about authoritarian, authoritative, all of that. And it's very interesting that none of the two speakers specifically spoke about that. But the issue about being positive, I think we need that so much, especially children in positive parenting. I think that is so important. Thank you so much. Let me see whether you have any questions. Okay, it's just saying thank yous. Yeah, something you mentioned about the food in the house. Even though my mom was a caterer, she is a caterer as well, most of the time it was you will eat what is placed in front of you, but most of the time there was variety. But yeah, sometimes cook 5 different kinds of food in the house, you're probably not going to have peace unless that's
no, don't worry, it wasn't 5 different, but there was always choice. No, but guess what? It didn't happen when we were children. When you were a child, you ate whatever was put before you. So I think that I like the fact that my parents have graduated their relationship with us. So yeah. So you can't be treating a 5-year-old child the same way you treat a 15-year-old. Yeah.
Yes, absolutely. That's why it's horrendous when you hear some parents thinking they can be smacking 18-year-olds or they can be smacking 19-year-olds, and they get surprised when the child then takes whatever from their hand or or beat them instead, because that's not appropriate for that stage in their lives. Yes, no, not appropriate. And children are different. So I have met a friend born and bred in Nigeria, maybe hardly ever. And the day she told me, I said, oh my God, you must have been a really, really good child. Because it was so strange to me to hear that had never happened, although she was an only girl as well. But I think some children are more docile than others, but we pray that God gives all of us good children. Somebody is saying her mother smacked her into her 20s.
Oh, wow.
I don't know how to deal with that one on this platform. It's more than my power. It's more than my power. Well, yes,
20.
God for great children. Yes, so we are rounding up. Thank you, everybody. You've been such an amazing audience. We might be rounding up early today unless we have questions or comments from the house. Do we have any questions said so far? I don't know what I've done. Yes. Just a minute. I think there are feedback forms in the chat room for us. Does anybody have a comment before we go, or a question? I think I'm trying to get my screen in the right position.
A question, please.
Okay.
Hello.
Okay. Yes, sir. You can ask your question.
How do you handle?
Hello, sir.
How do you handle a young man in his 20s or 30s still behaving like a 10 or 12-year-old teenager?
Good evening, Daddy. I don't know if that question was directed at me, but I'm just going to say by the time the child is 18, he has become an adult. You two, you need to start treating the child like an adult, meaning let them parents, let them be involved in
He's an adult, yes, and he's being treated like one. But when you tell an adult, clean your room, clean your toilet, tidy your room, which he was doing when he was in some earlier ages, and he's not doing them, and he's still living in the house.
Daddy, I don't have answer. But I mean, for me, your house is your house, and you need to give them rules. Anybody who is above 18, it's no longer your responsibility. If they can't keep your rules, they go out. It's as simple as that. I find that African parents, their heart is too soft. And I understand why.
Thank you for your answer.
I don't know whether Sister Bex wants to comment on that as well. You have a comment on that question?
I'm afraid to answer that one. I don't know. I only have experience with girls, and
why?
I only have experience with girls, so I don't know about young boys, but I think all I can encourage is for the younger ones, if we train them when they're young, I don't know what to do with the older ones. But I think the answer was very good.
The answer that Chinedu gave is excellent. Or unless
Thank
there
you
is
for your
an issue,
answers. I appreciate it.
Sorry.
unless something has happened, unless there's something that behavior. If there isn't,
yeah,
like Auntie Chinedu, now I can coach Auntie Chinedu, just sling him out, let him go and find his square root somewhere else.
I think from Bisola, or maybe it's a question.
No, good evening, everyone.
I
just wanted to comment. I wanted to comment on the last question that was asked. So, if he was doing this before and suddenly stopped, then we might want to investigate if he's not depressed or if there is something exactly. If there is something, if everything is all right, because it's not as if he didn't have a good upbringing. For him to be doing it before and all of a sudden, if he just stops, maybe he has lost zest for life. Maybe he had a terrible heartbreak or something really bad that he just doesn't see the point of, doing regular things that an adult will do. But once we've done that investigation and we found out that, okay, there's really nothing wrong, then we can now, take very, very serious measures, like telling him, okay, go out, get a place of your own and things like that. But let's just not throw people under the bus without trying to understand the bleeding of their hearts that they are not able to voice out for reasons best known to them. That's just what I want.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for
so
that
much,
wonderful
Abisola. Abisola happens to be a teacher of children. Abisola happens to be a teacher of children, and she's brought a very balanced perspective to it, that there might be more to it. So before we leave, I hope we've tried to fill the feedback. You think Moji should comment?
Okay. Well, okay, I'll just thank you for that contribution, Abisola. It is quite possible for an adult who's been functioning properly, and suddenly you notice like a change in kind of like their habits. So I have a mental health background. So if somebody, that is one of many possible things that could be going on, but somebody who used to take care of their personal hygiene, have a bath, take care of their, take care of their appearance and all that, suddenly starts to deteriorate in that regard, then it might be a pointer to, is it a mental health problem going on? Is the person depressed? Is the person mentally unwell? Is the person going through something, particularly some mental anguish? So that is one of the many possible reasons why an adult who didn't have issues growing up, up until recently and started to have those things. So that's one possible reason, from the mental health perspective, but there could be other reasons. But like Abisola has said, it would be good to properly investigate and not be quick to say the person is being irresponsible that way. It's just to find out the facts and then make the appropriate plans or interventions from the facts that you've gathered. Yeah.
Thank you so much, Moji.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay, so we are rounding up the session now today. I'm hoping we have filled the feedback form. I'm sure Mojisola or Busola would have pasted it, and we'll just take final words from the Isholas and from Chinedu before we end the session. Thank you.
Rebecca has just stepped out. It's just me here. The only thing I can say is...
That's fine. We can't see you though.
Oh, okay. Thank you again for the opportunity. We're very encouraged by this session and this forum. And thank you for allowing us to share our experiences with you.
Okay, it's a pleasure to have you both. Is Chinedu ready to give us final words, or is Sister Bex ready there? Hello,
She's
Sister
back,
Bex.
so it's
Do
fine.
you mind giving us final words in the house? Yes. Okay. Sister Bex, you're muted though.
The only thing I can say is by His grace that there's no formula to this parenting thing, and that's all I can end with is just by His grace and by the leading of His Spirit, and day by day on the journey.
No, everybody's not church folks, look. It's okay.
My brother is saying they are not church folks. Who does not need grace? Eh? We all need grace. So leave that in. It's by His grace. So.
I just said not everybody's church folks. That's all I just said. Yeah, I'm being told off for your behalf.
Thank you so much. It's lovely to have you. Chinedu, let's have your final words. Thank you.
Okay, so my final words is that nobody is fixed. We're not trees, you know. Regularly evaluate whatever you're doing, and regularly evaluate its impact on your child or your children. Why? Because, you know, it's the daily steps that impact, you know, the long term, and it's important to ensure that whatever you intend to do, you know, the intended outcome is what you're getting. And I say that because, you know, growing up, I met people whose parents were really, really strict, and today those people are literally drug addicts, you know. So it's not just enough that you think that, oh, beating is the way. Watch, is it working? You know, it's interesting. The Bible says, watch and pray, not pray and watch. So watch first, you know. So I mean, for me, I'm really big on evaluations. So evaluate what you're doing. Be sure it's getting you the results that you want. And if it's not,
looks like your screen is hanging. If it's not, change it. I'm sure that's what she's about to say. Let me wait for her to come back. Hello, Chinedu. Her internet is not stable, unfortunately. Hello. Oh, I wish we could hear what she's saying, unless she chats it in the box. Come back in. Okay. Thank you, everybody. You've been an amazing audience. Please take time to feed the feedback form. The first session of the parenting session 1 is on YouTube, so feel free to go in and listen. And session 2 will be on YouTube very soon, before the end of next week as well. Thank you so much, everybody. So I'm hoping that we've had an amazing time and we're learning and gleaning intentional parenting. We'll be talking about intentional parenting, and hoping to see all of you there. Invite your friends. If you think this has been beneficial to you, I'm sure it will be beneficial to them as well. So please invite them to pop into the sessions. Chinedu, are you back? Chinedu, I can see you. You
yes,
want to?
I am back. It just
Okay.
went off and then came back on. I don't know, network most likely.
Yeah.
So the last thing I was just saying was about the place of the Holy Spirit. Don't just go in your own strength all the time, especially when the matter is just recurrent and is not being sorted. Just ask the Holy Spirit. It could just be, I mean, I don't know, it could just be a tiny thing and it would really, really make a difference. So for example, once my mom just dropped in, she had never come to my school before. I'm in Zaria. I schooled in Zaria. She just came one Sunday morning. Meanwhile, I'd gone to uni and said, man, all those your church things in your pockets. I wasn't going to church, nothing. She just came, knocked on the door. How she found me, I don't know. And I opened the door, I saw her, I nearly peed in my pants. But guess what? This thing of her dropping in school made me say, at least let me be going to church, let her not just come and meet me like that. And it made me at least reconsider my relationship. So my point is, she had no plans of coming to Zaria. She just said she was in KD and her heart just said, go and see her. And those were the days when there were no phones. So follow your heart with your child as well, And my mom used to be one of those no trouser wearing people. I was wearing trousers that morning.
Yeah.
So, yeah, thank you again. And thanks to Ishola.
It's lovely to have you, sometimes when some mothers behave, it will be as though that they have some jazz that is telling them what to do when it comes to their children.
I'm telling you.
It's called intuition. And sometimes and if they're working with God as well, God can show them things. And that's why sometimes parents need to be prayerful, they need to be watchful, they need to be discerning, even about things like friends around their children, the influences around their children, what they're doing. Yes, the world is quite polluted these days, and we want to be very intentional about raising healthy and strong individuals, because there's so much fluff, and we need people that are originals, that are shining their lights, that are using their power, that are staying in peace, and that are strong individuals that can build strong societies. Those are the kind of children we want to have, and that's part of the reason for these sessions. Thank you so much, everybody. God bless you all. See you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. It's a great session.
Thank you. All right.